Massive Magic trade update as Cole Anthony could be used as trade bait. Is this the Orlando Magic's master plan going into the offseason? Is this something that makes this team better and can bring them over the first round hump that they have been on for the past 2 seasons? Guys, welcome into Magic Digest. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. As always, this is your one-stop shop for Orlando Magic basketball content here on YouTube. We're going to cover 2 things today: Cole Anthony and the possibility of him being traded in this offseason. What exactly are we hearing about that? As well as there was a really great article written by The Athletic that compared the Houston Rockets progress to the Orlando Magic's progress, and both of them going out in the first round this year. The Magic obviously went out in the first round last year, and I thought that was very interesting. I wanted to highlight that. That article will be linked down in the description below, as well as with the other basketball channel that I am also on that I want you guys to make sure that you check out. Okay, so what are we hearing about Cole Anthony potentially being traded? This also comes from the Athletic insider John Hollinger. Believes Anthony could be a trade chip this offseason. They have several middle-class contracts for useful but hardly essential players who can be the salary match in a trade for a playmaking guard. He wrote, Cole Anthony, though beloved in the locker room, seems likely to be one piece based on his friendly contract status, a $13.1 million deal for 25-26 with a team option at the same number for 26-27. Players such as Portland's Anthony Simons or Chicago's Kobe White, who both those players, now I'm inserting this, have been linked to the Orlando Magic, might be examples of players Orlando could possibly import and wouldn't crush their cap. More expensive types such as Trae Young or LaMelo Ball probably aren't sustainable within this salary structure. I think that's a really interesting piece. I'll touch on that end really quick before we move on to the rest of it. Players such as LaMelo Ball or Trae Young, they're going to require more than Cole Anthony. It's going to require Jalen Suggs being in that deal, and we know if we pair them with Franz and Paolo that puts his team into probably conference finals / NBA finals contention. But will they want to do that? Is that how they want to build the team? That has been discussed and covered in the other videos. But when it comes to Cole Anthony, we have been linked to Kobe. This Magic team has been linked to Kobe White as well as Anthony Simons, and I just made a video on Anthony Simons. It would definitely take Cole Anthony in those trades to make it happen, and I think a lot of different contending teams would probably be more interested in services of Cole Anthony. So maybe less so than the Rockets or the Blazers, and more so like teams like, I just want to say the Lakers, but other Eastern Conference teams that the Magic want to make a deal within the Eastern Conference, or any team that's trying to get over the hump maybe in the Western Conference that's looking for some more depth. I don't know the salary cap situations for every single team, but I'm thinking like a team like the Warriors or whatever. But what would the Magic want in return? But I digress. He definitely could be a trade piece and something that these teams could be interested in. Look, Orlando needs a supporting cast. This Magic team won 41 games last season, and it was through a ton of adversity, with Jalen Suggs only playing 35 games, I believe, total for the year. Franz and Paolo tearing their obliques. Freak injuries both happened in the same year. This team needs a supporting cast, and while Cole Anthony was that kind of player for this team last year, I think it's probably time that this team does end up moving on if they can get the right deal. They signed all of these guys for these good team-friendly contracts. Cole Anthony is one of the players that is in that group, and you want to be able to move on from him. And I definitely think that you can get something for him. This team is approaching the first tax apron, I believe, and you want to be able to make sure that you avoid it. This team is not good enough to be paying massive amounts in tax based off of the salary, even if we do feel like we have like the guys in the future that are the main pillars of this franchise. Okay, I wanted to get into the Athletics article that compared the Rockets with the Magic. I don't think it's a completely like fair comparison to make, because I think for the Rockets, the argument was that they don't have a number one right now. Like, is Sengun that number one? Maybe. Jalen Green certainly didn't feel like it during these playoffs. Then you have other different, auxiliary role players for the Houston Rockets, some veterans, and then you got like Jabari Smith or something like that. It doesn't feel like maybe they have their number one just yet. And they also made that comparison with the Orlando Magic, talking about, is Paolo Banchero really a needle mover? I believe I was reading something along the lines of he hasn't actually had a positive net rating when he's on the court over the last 2 years. I don't know if that's completely true. I'd have to double check that, but stuff like that, maybe this team being able to stay afloat without him. Is it Franz Wagner instead? Thought it was very interesting, and it said maybe that the Magic don't have their number one. I completely disagree. The Magic do have their number one, and it is Paolo Banchero. Right now with the shot, and with Franz Wagner and him having to get that back, he's probably a fringe too right now until he can get that. But with that being said, they have their 1 and their 2. That's all the more reason why they should potentially try to move on from somebody like Cole Anthony and get a difference maker, whether that is a great playmaking guard, somebody that can move Jalen Suggs to the 2 or what have you. That is what they're going to need to do. Now, this article does go into a little bit more in depth about what this team should do with Cole Anthony. And it mentions, look, you're going to want to move some other players like that can. You're going to want to move a guy like Cole Anthony. You're going to want to move some of the other players on this bench, such as Jonathan Isaac or even Wendell Carter Jr., who is obviously in the starting lineup, and to get players that are going to be able to support your weaknesses. It was going on to say that Cole Anthony addresses some of the weaknesses on this team when we saw that mid-season, but overall, when the playoffs came around, he didn't have that extra level of ability that was able to mask some of the weaknesses at the highest level in the NBA. He was able to do it in the regular season on a Tuesday night, but he wasn't able to do it against the Boston Celtics. So if you're the Orlando Magic, while you don't want to lose your identity and you don't want to lose some of that team culture, such as Cole Anthony, you do realize, even if you feel like you have fringe number 1s and number 2s on this team from the outside looking in, we all know that those guys are number 1s and number 2s, you want to be able to make sure that you support their weaknesses and you don't continue to build off of strengths. And that was, I thought, a really interesting thing. But as I mentioned, that article will be linked down below. Look, Cole Anthony has been a player. Now this is just me going on. Cole Anthony's been a player that I have mentioned in trade talks probably for about a year now. And I think that while he is great, we do need to recognize, and I want to continue to harp on this, how many players are going to be on this team if you really envision they win a championship. When Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner raised that Larry O'Brien for the Orlando Magic, how many players on this current team are there in the background? Is Jalen Suggs there in the background? I question that, but I think we've all kind of realized that they're going to try it with this core, and that's okay. I certainly want to see it. Is Cole Anthony in that picture as well? Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, Goga Bitadze, like, are they there? Is Tristan da Silva there? I think Anthony Black is there. How many players are there? And I think that's where some of this comes from is, look, this team is going to have to make some moves. If you want to run this back again as is completely, we're just going to – this team has a maximum second round type of potential. So – we'll just have to see. And when you get to the second round and then you start getting closer to that second apron, well, then now it's time to have some uncomfortable conversations about moving anybody else. And Cole Anthony could be in that group. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the Rockets comparison. I didn't buy it specifically for the top end. I feel like Orlando Magic's potential is higher, but with the specific players that they had. But the Rockets did have a much better season overall, and they were obviously healthy. So I think it's pretty interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Cole Anthony potentially getting traded and what this team wants to do. But as always, I will see you guys next time with more Orlando Magic basketball content.